All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the exact, precise origin of consciousness, straight from the profound source text, Day One, the foundation of all things. We're talking about a meticulous, almost word-for-word accounting of how the Creator actually came into awareness. So this isn't just some broad, abstract philosophical overview. No, we are getting into the exact mechanics of how an absolute void transformed into the fertile ground of possibility, and more importantly, the immediate, profound challenges that popped up the exact second the mind woke up to its own nature. We plunge right into the void with this incredibly powerful quote from the text. It captures the very moment the Creator realized its own existence. Listen to the precision here. The I Am, in its growing wisdom, encountered a disturbing force within itself: impatience. Notice that? The threat wasn't some external enemy or an outside invader knocking at the door. No way. The very moment consciousness recognized its own creative potential, it simultaneously birthed a deeply unsettling internal conflict. So that brings us to Section 1, the awakening of consciousness and facing the internal threat. Let's look at this like a grand cosmic allegory, where consciousness meets its very first antagonist. To really grasp this, we have to look at our two main cosmic players, which set up the fundamental tension of all existence. On one side, you have the I Am. The exact wording of the text identifies this as pure creative consciousness. And on the flip side, we have what the source precisely calls the I Am Not. Now, this wasn't just a passive emptiness or a lack of creation. It was a fiercely destructive impulse, embodied entirely by the energy of impatience. This restless, chaotic energy basically wanted to either completely devour the creative consciousness or just tear itself away entirely. Think about the sheer aggression of that energy for a second. The source tells us that this impatience literally carried the seed of all future discord. It was a force that absolutely refused to wait for proper timing. It wouldn't allow for careful cultivation. It completely rejected the delicate step-by-step process of how thoughts actually turn into reality. Instead, the I Am Not aggressively thrashed against the measured pace of creation. It was loudly demanding immediate gratification and instant transformation. Basically, it wanted the final result without having to go through the journey. And right here is where the Creator recognized the exact danger at play. The I Am saw crystal clear that if this impatient force was just left unchecked, it would corrupt every single act of emerging reality. Look at the specific transformations the text warns us about. True love, that would be twisted into mere possession. Genuine wisdom would quickly curdle into arrogance, and natural, healthy growth would mutate into aggressive conquest. The entire fabric of emerging reality was literally hanging in the balance of this internal conflict. To protect existence from this massive corruption, a crucial decision had to be made. This brings us to Section 2, drawing the holy line, the sacred division. The absolutely crucial point here is the boundary itself. The exact text calls this the holy line. And the source makes a really fascinating distinction that we need to pay attention to. This wasn't just a random border, and it definitely wasn't a punishment. It was a sacred principle, a divine separation meant purely for protection. On one side, it completely safeguards the patient, nurturing force of true creation. Walled off on the other side is that impatient hunger we talked about, the energy that seeks to possess rather than cultivate, to take rather than give. This holy line ensured that pure creative force wouldn't be contaminated by the destructive haste that always rushes toward endings instead of cherishing the beginnings. But as you might guess, this clean binary of creation versus destruction suddenly gets incredibly complicated for the Creator. Let's move to Section 3, the paradox of necessary destruction, the complication. So, the I Am is faced with a really profound paradox. While it knew that impatience bred consumption and accelerated entropy, it also discovered a deeply uncomfortable truth. Are you ready for this? Some destruction is actually essential for renewal. The consciousness realized that stagnation itself could become a form of death. If you cling too tightly to existing forms, you actually prevent the emergence of greater beauty. Even the absolute most perfect creation will eventually become a prison if it's never allowed to transform or change. But remember, our antagonist was cunning, which brings us to Section 4, impatience in disguise, the shape-shifting threat. It started whispering that waiting was just weakness. This is where the cosmic allegory hits incredibly close to home for us. The text details exactly how impatience infiltrated existence by putting on a mask of noble urgency. Think about human relationships. Impatience masquerades as devotion, right? But it's actually possessiveness. In Progress, It's not some brilliant new invention, it's reckless innovation that completely ignores the long-term consequences. Justice gets twisted into vengeance that destroys instead of restoring. And in the physical realm of growth, it becomes a cancer that literally consumes its host. It is the exact same destructive energy, just wearing a different disguise. Despite this highly sophisticated infiltration, the consciousness learned an invaluable lesson, leading us to Section 5, Controlled Destruction, Guided by Wisdom. Here, we finally see that grand paradox resolved. Destruction isn't always the ultimate enemy, provided it's guided by patience and wisdom rather than urgency. Think of a forest fire clearing away dead brush so brand new life can sprout from the ashes. Think of the deliberate, careful breaking down of outdated systems to make vital space for much better ones to emerge, or even just the gentle dissolution of forms that have fully served their purpose. The holy line remained absolutely critical, but it required constant vigilance to maintain against those sophisticated disguises. And so the void was empty no longer. We've reached Section 6, the end of Day 1, the eternal pattern. This primordial moment, this literal, precise dawn of consciousness, teaches us the most foundational rule for all of existence. The mind had awakened to its own nature, but it established its identity not in total isolation, but in relationship to what it actively chose not to become, that consuming force of the I am not. This teaches us that awareness fundamentally brings both immense power and immense responsibility. It requires us to constantly navigate that tension between the careful cultivation of what should be and the necessary, wise release of what must pass away. The text leaves us with the ultimate challenge of discernment. Because that holy line, it's not a fixed, rigid wall. It is a living, breathing principle. So, I'll leave you with this final vital question. Can you distinguish between destruction that serves life and destruction that serves only itself? Navigating that difference requires eternal wisdom from all of us. Thank you for joining me for this explainer of Day 1. Take this framework, look at the forces of patience and impatience in your own life, and keep learning.